When you stop drinking coffee, your body does not simply continue operating as normal, because caffeine affects multiple systems throughout the brain and body, and over time, regular coffee consumption becomes part of your daily biological routine, whether you realize it or not. For many people, coffee is more than a beverage. It becomes connected to waking up, working, studying, socializing, and even feeling productive and alert every day. But beneath these habits, caffeine is constantly interacting with your nervous system, influencing energy levels, attention, mood, and even the way your brain perceives tiredness. And one of the most important things caffeine does is block a chemical called adenosine, which gradually builds up in the brain throughout the day, creating sleep pressure and making you feel tired. By blocking adenosine, caffeine temporarily prevents your brain from fully recognizing how tired it actually is, which creates the feeling of increased alertness and energy. But when you suddenly stop drinking coffee after consuming it regularly, your brain is forced to adjust to the absence of this stimulation. And one of the first things many people experience is fatigue, because the adenosine that was previously being blocked can now affect the brain more freely, making tiredness feel much stronger than usual. This often creates the impression that coffee was providing energy, when in reality, part of what it was doing was masking fatigue that already existed. Your brain also adapts to regular caffeine intake over time, and when caffeine disappears, the nervous system must recalibrate, which can create temporary withdrawal symptoms. One of the most common is headaches, because caffeine influences blood vessels, and when intake suddenly stops, changes in blood flow can trigger discomfort that may last for several days. Some people also experience difficulty concentrating, because their brains have become accustomed to functioning with caffeine stimulation, and now must relearn how to maintain focus without it. You may feel mentally slower, less motivated, or less productive during the first days, not because your brain is damaged, but because it is adjusting to a different balance of chemicals and signals. Your mood may also change because caffeine affects neurotransmitters involved in alertness and reward, and without the usual stimulation, some people experience irritability, low motivation, or a general feeling that something is missing, even if they are not consciously craving coffee itself. Another thing that often changes during the early stages is sleep, because many regular coffee drinkers do not realize how much caffeine may be affecting their sleep quality, even when they believe they sleep normally. And once caffeine is removed, some people begin noticing that they fall asleep more easily, stay asleep longer, or wake up feeling different than before. Although these improvements may not happen immediately because the brain is still adapting during the first several days. And as these changes unfold, your body begins the process of learning how to regulate energy, alertness, and attention without relying on the daily caffeine boost it has become used to receiving. As days turn into weeks after stopping coffee, the withdrawal symptoms that dominate at the beginning often start fading, and new changes begin appearing, because your body is now moving beyond adaptation and into a period of recalibration. One of the most noticeable differences often involves energy patterns throughout the day, because many coffee drinkers experience cycles of stimulation followed by crashes, where energy rises after caffeine and later drops once its effects wear off. And when coffee is removed, these peaks and valleys may gradually become less extreme, resulting in a more stable form of energy that feels different from the sharp alertness caffeine provides. At first, this stability may actually seem weaker, because it lacks the dramatic boost people are accustomed to. But over time, many discover that their energy feels more natural and predictable throughout the day. Another major change often appears in sleep quality, because caffeine can remain in the body for many hours. Even if it does not prevent someone from falling asleep, it may still affect deeper stages of sleep that are important for recovery, memory processing, and physical repair. As caffeine leaves your routine, your sleep architecture may gradually improve, allowing the brain to spend more time in restorative stages of sleep. And because better sleep influences nearly every aspect of health, the benefits can extend far beyond nighttime itself. Your concentration may also begin changing, because while caffeine can temporarily increase alertness, long-term reliance on stimulation may sometimes create the feeling that focus depends on a cup of coffee. And once your brain adapts to functioning without caffeine, you may discover that attention becomes more self-sustained, rather than dependent on repeated stimulation. Your stress levels may also change, because caffeine activates parts of the nervous system associated with alertness and arousal. And for some people, especially those sensitive to caffeine, this can contribute to feelings of nervousness, restlessness, or anxiety. And after quitting coffee, these sensations may gradually decrease, creating a calmer baseline state throughout the day. Your digestion can also be affected, because coffee stimulates digestive activity, and removing it may initially cause changes in digestion while the body adapts. But over time, many people notice greater stability, particularly if they previously experienced stomach discomfort related to caffeine consumption. Another area that may improve is hydration, because although coffee itself contributes fluids, caffeine can have mild diuretic effects in some individuals. And when coffee is replaced with water, other beverages, or simply more consistent hydration habits, overall fluid balance may improve. Your appetite may also begin changing, because caffeine can temporarily suppress hunger, and without it, some people notice stronger appetite signals, particularly during the first weeks while the body adjusts to new routines. And throughout this period, many individuals begin realizing that some sensations they once believed were normal, such as afternoon crashes, dependence on caffeine for motivation, or difficulty waking up without coffee, were actually connected to patterns created by regular stimulant use. And as those patterns weaken, the body can begin to feel significantly different. It starts rediscovering its own natural rhythm of energy and recovery. As months pass without drinking coffee, the long-term effects can become more noticeable because the body has now had sufficient time to fully adapt to life without daily caffeine stimulation. And one of the biggest changes often involves the relationship between energy and sleep. Because many former coffee drinkers report that they become more aware of their body's natural signals. They feel tired when they genuinely need rest and alert when they have recovered properly, rather than relying on caffeine to override those signals. And this can encourage healthier sleep habits, because it becomes more difficult to ignore fatigue and continue functioning on inadequate rest. Your mornings may gradually begin feeling different as well, because instead of depending on coffee to create alertness, your brain starts relying more heavily on the natural rise in cortisol and other wakefulness signals that occur after waking. And although this transition can take time, many people eventually find that getting out of bed becomes easier than it was during the withdrawal phase. Another important long-term effect may involve emotional balance, because caffeine affects not only energy, but also neurotransmitters linked to mood, motivation, and arousal. And while many people tolerate caffeine extremely well, others discover after quitting that they feel calmer, less anxious, and less emotionally reactive throughout the day, because their nervous system is no longer receiving repeated stimulation. Your cardiovascular system may also experience subtle changes, because caffeine can temporarily increase heart rate and blood pressure in some individuals. And while these effects are usually modest for healthy adults, removing caffeine eliminates one source of stimulation that the body previously had to manage. Your relationship with productivity can also change, because many people develop a psychological association between coffee and performance, believing they cannot work, study, or concentrate effectively without it. And once that dependency fades, there is often a realization that focus comes primarily from habits, sleep health, and attention management, rather than from caffeine itself. Your finances may even be affected if coffee was purchased regularly, because daily spending that once seemed insignificant accumulates over months and years. And beyond all these practical effects, there is also a deeper shift involving self-awareness, because quitting coffee often reveals how strongly habits influence daily life. Many people discover that what felt like a need was often a routine, reinforced through repetition and expectation, rather than a true requirement for functioning. And perhaps the most important thing to understand is that the effects of stopping coffee vary greatly between individuals, because genetics, lifestyle, sleep quality, stress levels, and caffeine consumption patterns all influence the experience. Some people notice dramatic benefits, while others feel little difference, and some may even choose to return to moderate coffee consumption because they enjoy its effects and experience no meaningful negatives. But regardless of the outcome, the process highlights how adaptable the human body really is, because after years of receiving a daily stimulant, the brain and body are still capable of adjusting, rebalancing, and finding a new normal. And over time, many people come to appreciate that energy, concentration, and well-being are influenced by far more than a single drink. They are shaped by sleep, nutrition, movement, stress management, and countless daily habits working together. And when coffee is removed, those deeper factors often become much easier to see.